let's be clear about this. Our company was dishonest with the EPA and the California Air Resources Board, and with all of you. And in my German words, we have totally screwed up.
Volkswagen is bracing for billions in fines, possible criminal charges for its executives, as the company apologizes for rigging 11 million cars to help it beat emissions tests.
Certain diesel models were designed with sophisticated software that used information, including the position of the steering wheel and vehicle speed, to determine the car was undergoing emissions testing. Under that circumstance, the engine would reduce toxic emissions. But the car was rigged to bypass that when it was being driven. Emissions increased 10 to 40 times above acceptable EPA levels.
Well, modern cars have dozens of computers inside them, and some of those computers help coordinate the functions of the engine for optimum performance while making sure that there isn't too much garbage coming out of the exhaust pipe. They've actually been working this way for several decades now. Basically, every part of a modern car's engine has a sensor or a controller on it, and these computers are reading in data thousands of times per second, making adjustments like the ratio of fuel to air that's going into the cylinders. These cheating Volkswagen and Audi models are diesels, and diesels have one more really important computer-controlled parameter, which is the amount of unburned fuel going into the exhaust. Now that sounds bad. It doesn't sound like you would want unburned fuel going into the exhaust, but in the case of a diesel, you have something called a NOx trap, which is a device that absorbs and traps nitrogen oxides that are pollutants that would otherwise go into the atmosphere. And the effect of that NOx trap is enhanced with unburned fuel. So a defeat device is a special program inside these computers that can make it look like the car meets emission standards even when it doesn't. Volkswagen had a problem on its hands. Its diesel engines were known for getting great fuel economy, but the NOx trap only works well when more fuel is being used. So the car would detect, using this defeat device, when it was getting an emissions test. It would use more fuel, make the NOx trap work well, emissions would be fine, but then you get on the road, the device turns off, you're burning less fuel, but you're putting as much as 40 times more pollutants into the atmosphere. But how the heck did the car know that it was being tested for emissions compliance? The EPA says it was a sophisticated system that checked things like steering wheel position, speed, how long the engine was on, and even the atmospheric pressure. In other words, there was no way this was accidental because the software was designed very carefully to detect an official emissions test. That's some pretty serious deception, and that's why Volkswagen is in such serious trouble.
CEO Martin Winterkorn apologizes and resigns. He's replaced by Matthias Müller, the head of VW's Porsche brand. Plans are announced to start recalling the 8.5 million affected cars across Europe. The company says they will be fixed by the end of 2016. Volkswagen is hit by endless lawsuits from customers upset that their cars have lost value because of the software. VW agrees to pay up to $14.7 billion to settle the issue. That's much more than any other automaker has paid for wrongdoing. Most of that money will go to owners of the affected vehicles. In addition to compensation for lost value, Volkswagen will have to either buy back or fix the cars. But this isn't the end of the story. The company still faces civil and criminal investigations.
Volkswagen will start firing people responsible for rigging U.S. emissions tests and shake up management on Friday, two sources familiar with the plans said, as the German carmaker tries to get grips with the biggest scandal in its 78-year history.
You're fired. 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 You're fired.
Michael Horn, head of Volkswagen in the U.S., testifies to U.S. lawmakers, blaming the scandal on a few engineers. Senior management was not involved, he says.
The ethical breakdown. Three key factors for unethical decision.
Volkswagen has overtaken Toyota to become the best-selling car maker in the world. It's the first time the German company has been number one, and it comes despite the continuing scandal over cheating on emissions tests.
After Volkswagen admitted it had understated carbon dioxide levels, the European Commission has written to all 28 European Union member countries, urging them to widen their investigations into potential breaches of vehicle emissions rules.